All right, let's jump right in. We are facing a whole planet's worth of problems, right? But what if the real issue isn't the problems themselves, but the old, outdated operating system that humanity is running on? Today, we're going to explore Phoenix, a framework that's designed to literally upgrade how we work together to solve these massive global crises.
And this quote, it really gets to the absolute heart of the problem. For, centuries, our decisions have been driven by these deep-seated patterns of fear and scarcity. Things like tribalism, hoarding resources, that zero-sum thinking. It all helped us survive way back when. But now, in our completely interconnected world, that exact same programming is actually pushing us towards collapse.
And this image right here, this shows you the result. We're not just dealing with a bunch of separate crises. We are in what's called a polycrisis, where everything, from climate change to social breakdown, is all tangled up, feeding on itself. It's what you'd expect to get from an old, fear-based system running on a global scale.
So, if we're going to find a real solution, we have to look under the hood. We first need to understand the fundamental code that's causing all these bugs in the first place. What exactly is this outdated operating system that we're all running?
Okay, so this term, polycrisis. Think of it like a giant, messy feedback loop. Climate instability makes economic stress worse, which then fuels social unrest, and that in turn makes it almost impossible to deal with the climate. See how that works? Each problem just makes the others bigger, creating this massive challenge that our current, fragmented way of doing things it can't handle it.
So this puts us at a pretty fundamental choice. We can either stick with the old way, building boxes, which just means more silos, more competition, more taking from the earth, all of it driven by fear. Or we can choose a totally new way, cultivating a garden, a world that's built on symbiosis, regeneration, and real cooperation.
And that's literally where we are right now. We are at a crossroads. One path keeps us in that old loop of competition on a planet with finite resources. And, that leads to collapse. The other path is a conscious choice to evolve, to actually co-evolve with each other and with the planet itself. Okay, so how do we actually choose that new path? This is where the whole idea of the Phoenix platform comes into play. And it's not being proposed as just another product, but as a completely new architecture for this new way of collaborating.
And how it's framed is absolutely key here. Phoenix isn't supposed to be just another app or some top-down solution. No, it's conceived as a living system, a shared space, what's called a collaboration commons, designed to help all of humanity respond to crises with coordination, with compassion, and with wisdom.
So what would it actually do? Well, if we look at its core functions, you'll see it's not about throwing everything out and starting over. It's designed to connect the good work that's already happening, to weave it all together. The goal is to create the right conditions to transmute our fear-based patterns into collective wisdom and our extractive habits into regenerative ones. And by distributing power instead of centralizing it, it could act like a planetary nervous system, letting these smart, coordinated responses emerge from the ground up.
Okay, but that sounds pretty abstract. How does it actually do that? Well, the whole mechanism behind Phoenix is built on this really powerful concept, building coherence. So let's break that down.
In system science, coherence is that magic moment when all the different parts of a system start working together, aligned and synchronized. Imagine an orchestra. When it's coherent, it's beautiful music. When it's not, it's just noise. When you have coherence, information and resources can flow smoothly, without all the friction and waste that we get from fragmentation and competition.
So Phoenix is designed to build this coherence across 4 different layers all at the same time. It starts with the cognitive layer, just getting everyone on the same page with a shared understanding of what's going on. But then, and this is so critical, it moves to the relational and emotional layer. This is where you build the trust and the psychological safety you need to filter out our fear-based reactions. Because let's be honest, without that trust, collaboration always falls apart. From there, you build a deeper coherence around meaning and values, and finally, you translate all of that into the operational layer, real, effective, coordinated action in the world.
And this, right here, this is the absolute, non-negotiable foundation of the entire system. Technology can't fix a lack of trust. Phoenix is designed around the idea that human transformation moves at the speed of relationship. It focuses on creating the conditions where trust can actually be built and protected, so that collaboration becomes natural, not forced.
So, if coherence is the foundation, what's the outcome? What does it enable? Well, that would be synergy. And this brings us to what you might call the operational heart of the Phoenix platform, the synergy engine. Now, we've all heard the buzzword synergy, right? But here it means something very, very specific. It's that moment when 1 + 1 = 3. It's where a kind of collective intelligence emerges that is way greater than what the individual parts could ever do on their own. This is the direct result of breaking down all those boxes we were talking about earlier.
And this table just connects the dots so perfectly. A shared mission? That's not just a nice to have, it's directional coherence. Coordinated strategies create operational coherence. That trust and collaboration we keep talking about? That's relational coherence. And suddenly, synergy isn't some magical, fluffy concept anymore. It's the practical, measurable result of a system that has actually become coherent.
And on the flip side, it's pretty easy to see what shatters all of this. These are the hallmarks of our old operating system, right? Competing for the same resources, talking past each other, having totally conflicting values, and that deep-seated, fear-driven belief that for me to win, you have to lose. Phoenix is designed specifically to counteract these patterns, to create an environment where cooperation actually becomes the most rational and rewarding choice you can make.
So when you pull back and look at the big picture, what does this all add up to? If we can really build coherence and achieve synergy, we're not just solving problems anymore. We're actually creating an entirely new civilizational paradigm. Phoenix is essentially designed to support a clear developmental journey. You start by building basic coherence just to reduce all that fragmentation. Then, as trust gets deeper, your collaboration becomes resilient. It can handle stress, it can handle disagreement, and finally, you can reach this incredible state of cohesive synergy, where a truly new level of collective intelligence starts to emerge.
And this image, wow, this is the goal, right? This is the end game. We're not talking about isolated projects anymore. We're talking about an integrated, living architecture for planetary regeneration. A kind of global nervous system that connects all the local actions into one coherent, life-affirming whole.
When you get right down to it, this is about growing up. It's about humanity's journey from an extractive adolescence, characterized by short-term thinking and endless competition, to a regenerative adulthood, one that's defined by long-term stewardship and deep collaboration.
And that really is the bottom line, isn't it? The future won't be saved by a few brilliant people or some isolated solutions, all working in their separate little boxes. It's going to be determined by our ability to weave all of those efforts together into a coherent, synergistic, and truly living system.
So, the blueprints for a new kind of infrastructure for conscious collaboration are being drawn up. A system designed to help us overcome our deepest fear-based patterns and finally work together on a planetary scale. The question this leaves for all of us is a huge one. Are we ready to install it,